Today we want to kind of talk to you a little bit about the situation we find ourselves in and some of the things we can do to help. I want to introduce myself, Dan Gregory. I'm a senior security strategist at CBI. I've been here for 17 years. And Sean Bertrand.
Thanks. I've got Dan beat out by 1 year. I've been here for 18 years. I am the vice president of our advanced testing services team here, the group of ethical computer consultants, Jedi Knight hackers that do what they do best, right? They help to find advanced and sophisticated vulnerabilities in our customer environments. And, you know, today as we talk, one of the main attack vectors that we leverage consistently is email. And so I'm excited here to join you, Dan, and talking a little bit about email security.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. That's the topic du jour right now, and the fact that unfortunately, in the situation we find ourselves with the global pandemic, COVID-19, right now there's a lot of people preying on the fact that people are working remotely and from home. They're having to make decisions individually from home and not behind the protected cloak of their network within their organizations like they normally are. So they're having to make independent decisions. And email, as you know, Sean, is pretty tricky to navigate sometimes when you're faced with something that looks like a legitimate email. Not to make this all about phishing attacks, although that is the primary vector, it is the one that comes up the most. And then if you've read the news and you Google it, you'll find a lot of those, unfortunately, are happening right now. So let's talk about a little bit about, like you said, Sean, what email security means. Break down the components of it, you know, the people, processes, technologies, perhaps, and how we can help those who find themselves working remote and are a little bit more independent and away from their organization's protected networks. So email security, Sean, when we talk about email security, what's the main things from let's go do the people, process, and technologies, perhaps. From a people perspective, these individuals, what can they be doing as individuals to really protect themselves, best practices?
Yeah, people is, you know, the thing I gravitate to right away would be security awareness training, obviously, just to understand, you know, some of the different new attack vectors. Things change so dynamically, so quickly as we move to the remote workforce. So are the changes in the attacks that the bad guys and malicious adversaries will do. In addition, you know, there's some controls and countermeasures. I think even from the people perspective, you know, you understand culture and security awareness training, but there are still some controls that I think are maybe a little bit more endpoint related that can have some impact as well too. Like, as an example, being able to download images in Outlook is a bad thing. You can embed forced authentication attacks against some of those environments. So it still is more of a user kind of perspective, and I think that those are the things that kind of come to mind for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I would add is maybe more of a question to you is, especially now in the times we find ourselves in, do you think organizations should lay off or put on hold their phishing attack simulations for their end users and things like that? Or should they press the same or maybe a little bit harder? How should they communicate that out to the end users is what I'm asking.
That's a great perspective, and I guess I can give you some kind of challenges that we're dealing with right now too. You know, we just had a team meeting last week to determine whether or not our phishing campaigns should leverage COVID as a pretext, and the answer that we came up with was that it's a case-by-case basis. We will address it when customers think that it's absolutely something they want to target, then that's great. But there's been a lot of conversation on the internet about whether or not that's legit or not. I think we stay the course. You know, one of the ways that we were able to kind of circumvent the intrusiveness of COVID with our campaigns is that we really focused more on, you know, we know that there's been a great shift to remote access. As a result, we've incorporated a new two-factor authentication mechanism that you need to enroll in, or else you're not going to have access. So, you know, we didn't really touch COVID there, but we did at the same time kind of address the major kind of issue that we're dealing with, remote access.
That brings up a lot of great points there, Sean. 100% agree with that. It's all in the spirit of creating that security-minded culture, right? So in times like these, the prep work that your organizations would have done in times when they were good, 6-7 months ago, are really tested now. So your preparedness plans, your business continuity plans, this is really stressing all of those really to the max. So yeah, those are good points.
Process. Yeah, that's the process side to the people, process, and technology. And the technology side is the most I don't want to say impactful, but certainly noticeable
Yeah,
when you talk about making investments in email security, which is, the first entry point in an initial access kind of,
yeah,
attack lifecycle perspective. It's your best defense and your first line of defense.
yeah,
So, I guess if you want to talk a little bit about, email security from a technical perspective, I'm well
yeah,
prepared to dive into
absolutely.
some of those areas.
Yeah, so let's break down some of the basic tenets. And email security doesn't have to be scary, although it can be if you want to go down the deep rabbit hole, right? So let's just break out the basic. From the beginning, email, when it was born and actually is now what we recognize as email in modern times, there was basically frameworks wrapped around the security to ensure at least a level of security. A couple of decades ago, it was completely different than it is now, although those tenets are still there. We've just layered up more and more layers on top of the basic ones. So without getting too technical, there have been three primary frameworks. We know those: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, right? And they kind of stack on top of each other. And to kind of wash all the technical stuff out of it, those are basically just ways to make sure that the emails are coming from the places and sources that they say they're coming from, right? Just to validate who they are and that they're legit. We know that those can be spoofed very easily with a couple lines of simple code injected into the actual email to make it look like it came from someone you really know, when actually underneath the hood, it did not come from that person. So the validation techniques have improved dramatically, as you know. So I think we might want to spend a little bit of time talking about the basics, because everybody can do this. It's easily enabled, and there's not much to it as far as managing it right now. And it could, I think, significantly, going back to those basics, making sure you have those basic tenets of email security in place, really can make a big difference with very little effort. In most cases, they have them. They just need to be enabled the proper way. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a recommendation we make on, I'd say, 90% of all the red team engagements that we're on. In some cases, Center Protection Framework, and they're in order: SPF, DKIM, and then DMARC. You generally got to roll them out in that process. But SPF, best bang for your buck, right? And it is what we see through the field is that a lot of customers will enable it, but they'll put that soft fail mechanism in there, which means
Yeah,
email is still going to be delivered, and you can determine how it's delivered if it's got a little disclaimer on it, like this email originated from outside, which just turns into minutia and noise after a while from an endpoint security perspective. But hard fail, SPF, it's good stuff. Understand it's not bulletproof. Some of the attacks that our red team capitalizes on is a lot of people will put an exception in their SPF records for mail servers or marketing servers to be able to send email on the context or on the behalf of their domain. And in some cases, we've been able to sign up to those very same services and send from, coincidentally, sometimes luckily, the same IP address and the same stuff that matches the SPF. But SPF,
it's just
great.
IP address, right? Just based on the IP address,
SPF, DKIM,
But before we go on to DKIM, real quick, you mentioned hard and soft fail. A lot of people might not know what that means. So they're basically, there's a dial that you can turn up or down SPF. If you want it to be soft, which is easy, lets a lot of mail pass through. Hard, it's going to check many, many things. I forgot how many actually. Sean might know the real number, but there's in the teens of things that it checks. And if you get through every one of those hoops, that's a hard thing to do, hard fail. Then you get through. So you can dial it up and down a little bit as you want. One way lets the water flow, the other one kind of only lets it drip through. One of the shortcomings is it has SPF, that is, has nothing to say about the address that appears in the from field of the email message, meaning SPF can be easily spoofed, and you can just put in anything you want in the name, and the user looking at it looks like it's from somebody that I recognize.
Sally Smith.
Meanwhile,
yeah.
Correct.
And they don't look at the domain, or they don't look at anything else. Yeah, that's the tough part.
So first one, check in the box, SPF. Good, but it's the first step in a 3-step journey.
I just talk about DKIM and DMARC real quick. I mean, DKIM is obviously making sure that the authenticity of the person that sent the message is indeed the person who sent the message, essentially digital signatures on the end side. And so it's a necessity, obviously, just to validate that the email you expect to be receiving it from is indeed, but there's still some flaws with that. And then DMARC, wrapping everything with a nice little bow, giving you, comprehensive analytics on what's going on, who's spoofing your domain, other different mechanisms that you can use from more of a reporting perspective. But all in all, that's a recommendation we make all the time: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. It's something that we don't see. We see SPF a lot. We don't see DKIM and DMARC, and often when we see SPF, it's in that soft fail perspective only, which is not cool. Get to that hard fail. Get to the hard.
Yeah.
Fail.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would make a huge difference if everybody in the world right now just turned on SPF, DKIM, and DMARC immediately. It would be a different world tomorrow. But there are some challenges in getting there. So, Sean, beyond the basics, and that was a little bit technical, but it's like the basic frameworks. It's like you can't talk about hot rods without lifting up the hood and talking about the carburetor and the engine. It's part of the machine, and it's been there forever. So it's important to understand that. And we would encourage people watching this video to reach out to either Sean's team, myself, and others at CBI to better understand that, and our partners that can actually bring this type of technology to you or walk you through it. It's really important. It's an ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure for you guys as far as email security is concerned. So,
And yeah,
I encourage you to do that.
I think it's a good time to talk a little bit about some of the mechanisms behind a good email security platform. Since we're on the concept of technology, you know, there are a lot of different solutions out there. Oh God, Proofpoint, Mimecast. I mean, the list goes on and on in regards to, in regards to those solutions. I think what we look at when we are looking to bypass those controls or thoroughly vet their effectiveness, you know, there's a few things that really stand out in some versus others. Source reputation is pretty easy to identify, you know, whether the mail server that's sending this email has been notorious for not doing good things or sending spam and all that good stuff. So that's an easy win. Threat intelligence, obviously getting more behind the opportunity to understand maybe a mail server does have good reputation, but the region that it's coming from, or, you know, something along the IP space that it's in originates with some bad group or threat actor. One thing that I don't see enough that I know is feasible in some applications or in some of these solutions is a domain reputation analysis. So when we often, set up a new attack or campaign against our customer environments, many times we'll use some of the domains that we own. We have a ton of domains, and we've worked to falsify their reputation to a good perspective, which is why domain reputation isn't everything. But many times we have to use a typo squatted domain. And so what we'll do is obviously go out, purchase a new domain that looks similar to our customer environment, and we'll fire away. Well, that's easy to identify that that's bad. The domain was just created 2 or 3 days ago. It's got no reputation. That's such an easy way. And so domain reputation should be part of those controls as well that comes into play. The other thing that comes to mind for me is threat detonation. So the ability to virtually detonate, you know, attachments and URLs to see what's suspicious. We see a lot of that now is a great mechanism to identify everything from low-hanging fruit to some more sophisticated stuff. And that's a good perspective. And then lastly,
and unknown as well.
And then lastly, URL sanitizing. So, you know, oftentimes you see you'll receive these solutions where you'll receive an email. The email security solution will strip the URL that's in the email, replace it with their own, and they're doing a little bit of virtual detonation on some of that stuff as well. They're just trying to control the security risk best that they can. Those are good, but, you know, not foolproof as well. But some of the combination of those things, in my mind, equate to a good email security platform that's capable of detecting some run-of-the-mill threats and some more advanced and sophisticated stuff too.
Yep, totally agree. Those are all great points. And Sean, I would also add identity spoofing, basically. So the ability to look for your high value targets in emails and all the versions of their names. So let's say I'm Dan Greger, I'm the president of the company. Does it have the ability to automatically generate all the versions of that my name might be, D. Gregory, Dan G., and so on, and create those dynamically and to see if someone is spoofing one of those identities. And the other one, as you mentioned earlier, is images embedded in emails. Viruses can be contained within an image. So for those who don't know, that is a real thing and it happens quite a bit. And the other one was, you mentioned, was the URL detonation within attachments and documents. So a PDF comes in attached to an email. They open up the PDF document. It's got a link asking them to click it. Most technologies can't do that second step, which is to scan links in embedded documents. So look for those solutions. And we mentioned a few already here on the call that can do that. That
like
really
macros, same thing. Yep. Macro detonation is totally different from just opening up an Excel file and not detonating that macro. That's a great point, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a very large topic, and we probably could go on and on and on about this one for quite a while, but please reach out to us. Ask us more questions about this. It doesn't have to be this monolithic thing, this huge project that costs a lot of money. In most cases, it's something we can spin it very quickly for you and then help you apply best practices. But email security is now more important than ever. With that, We hope that you gained some information, some knowledge from the video. I know I did. I always do when I talk to Sean and his team.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I thought this was very beneficial, touched upon a lot of the topics I was hoping to squeeze in the time that we had. So great moderation, appreciate it. You know, if you found this video on a remote access page, you can read or learn more about how we can help leverage some of these technologies to help you defend your team, your customers, and your data. Just fill out the contact form page to get in touch with us and learn more about some of our different assessment offerings. And as always, you can find us on our website, cbisecure.com. Follow us on social media, or you can email us at help@cbisecure.com. Or if you're still into the analog mode, you can give us a call at 800-747-8585. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.